Hello, my lords and ladies, and welcome to the final episode of our Descent Act 2 painting series of the Betrayer's War. This is it. We painted everything in this, and this is the last miniature. You can't really call it a miniature, but it is. This is a triumphant dragon at top of a castle. We're going to use the slap chop method that you'll see here. So, as first, always, I want to thank all my YouTube members. You guys are absolutely amazing with all your support, donations. You help run this channel. You guys are awesome. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. A decently long video, I'm not going to lie. But without further ado, let's go. Alright, the first thing you're going to do before you do this is I spray painted it all in black, and then I did a spray from above in gray. You're going to take a dry brush, and you're going to take whatever white you have, just regular white, and you're going to dry brush that entire miniature. This is called the slap chop method. We're going to use those natural highlights we just created with the dry brushing on top of some speed paints and regular paints, and we are going to slap it all on. Now, this does take some time. You're going to have to redo your brush multiple times with the white that you're using. There's nothing fast about this miniature. It's so large, there's so much surface area that it does take a long time. But you notice that when you're putting the white dry brush on there that you're already creating a highlight, which is exactly what we want. And this is roughly what it should look like once you completely dry brush that entire thing. Alright, we're going to start with the skin of the dragon. Scaly, nasty dragon. We're going to use our first paint to be a Gutrippa Flesh. Now I'm putting this onto the frontal portion of the neck. And while you're doing this, we're going to kind of mix two colors together. They're both going to be green, and the second one is the Mantis Warrior Green. So get it on the front portion of that neck, quickly rinse your brush off, and then get a little dollop of that Mantis Warrior Green and start putting on the other side of it, the back side. We're also going to use the Mantis Warrior Green on the face areas. Now there's no wrong way to do this. You can mix it any way you want. I'm just using the Mantis Warrior Green on a lot of the raised areas, especially on the back and on the wings, as you're going to see in a lot of these clips. So for the face, we're going to be using a lot of that Mantis Warrior Green. We don't want to get it on any of the horns. We're going to kind of make our own dark greenish color for the horns here in a little bit. So don't worry about that. And if you get some on there, it is not a big deal. We'll just paint right over it because it's a darker color. So we're going to be using this on all of the face areas. You don't need to be real careful in this stage because we're going to do some highlights later in the video. And we're also going to be kind of filling in with some washes a little bit to kind of darken certain areas up. So trust the process and just enjoy the paint. To add some more depth into the face, we're going to take some Militarium Green now. So we got 3 different greens we're kind of working in there. And we're going to kind of put that into the crevices of the face. We're also going to be using this on other parts that we'll see here in a minute. But again, there's no real wrong way to do this. You could basically mix all these colors together and then just slap it on there. I'm not putting it all over everything. I'm just taking selective areas and putting it on there. When it dries, you'll notice that there's different tones in the green, which is exactly what we want. Now for all the horns on the miniature, there's a lot. You're going to miss some. I'm just quickly going over them with some Ork Flesh. This is just an example of how old the horns are. Also, the talons, that certain area, if you would like, you can use this as well. I'm just going over with the Ork Flesh, and then I'm going over with the Cygor Brown. It's going to create a very dark tone, almost a black, but it does have a tint of green in it, and that's what I was kind of shooting for. You can do all of the horns right now. You can wait. This is just kind of an example of how we're going to do this for everything on the miniature. Alright, moving on to the wings, and we are painting in the inside of our wings, or the webs of the wings, with that Gutrippa Flesh on the inside and outside. Now I'm only going to do the top one first to kind of give you a full expose on how to do it, or what I did for it. Now once you painted in the webs, the raised portions, you can do 1 and 2 colors. It's really up to you. You can do the Mantis Warriors Green or the Militarium Green, whatever you want to do. I end up doing the Mantis Warriors Green, and it gives you kind of a little bit of a contrast from the lighter Gutrippa to the little bit darker in the Mantis Warrior. And this is what it should look like when you're done with one wing. So you already notice how that white is sticking through. It looks pretty good already for some slap chopping. Now for the rest of the body, we are going to use the Mantis Warrior Green. So I predominantly put this in all the legs, inside and out, the rib cages, the arms, everything like there. Now I know there's scales on the feet up onto the ankle portion of our dragon, and I still use the green on there. You could put some of the brown we're going to do for the scales going down the tail if you would like, but I really liked the green scale look covering the feet. We're also going to do this on the inside of the tail. Now you'll notice, since we did the slap chop method with doing a base coat and then dry brushing before we painted it, it works perfectly for a miniature of this size and magnitude for all of our speed paints. You could paint this thing normally, it would take you an eon to do. This is just a quicker way to get it and make it look nice and get it on the table. Getting back onto our talons we were doing earlier, like I said, you could have done them at that time, you could have waited. I just went back and started finishing all. There's a whole bunch of little ones around the tails and the back side. So the Ork Flesh followed by some Cygor Brown that you'll see here on the next clip. For the front portion of our scales, we're going to use some Aggaros Dunes. Now we're going to use this color later as well on the base of our miniature, but it's going to be so insignificant you won't be able to tell the two apart, because we're going to put a little bit of a wash here later on these scales. So do them all the way down, and if you get a little bit onto the green areas, it just adds to the flavor. It doesn't hurt anything, so don't be afraid just to slap it on. Moving on to some of our regular paints now. We're going to kind of go back and forth here, but I want to get some of this larger surface area done, and we're going to use some Iron Warriors on all of our armor pieces. So you obviously have the chest piece, you've got the two thigh guards, the two top of the wing guards, and the shoulder guards as well. You also have the talons that are attached to the dragon's fingers that you'll have to do as well. Now for the chains that are connecting all of our pieces of armor, which looks really cool by the way, we are doing some Grey Knight steel. If you don't have this, you don't necessarily need it. This is just a steel looking color with a blue tint. It's very nice. I like it, but it's not necessary for this specific thing. You can do lead belcher if you want. It doesn't really matter. Now the alternative method for our talons, you could use Black Legion. I end up using Black Legion on a couple of small ones that are on the tail, and the little toesies of our giant dragon. For inside of our mouth, we're going to be using a little bit of Volupus Pink. You don't necessarily need this, but we're going to paint some pink colors over to make that tongue more vibrant here in a little bit. But you can use Screamer Pink if you would like. It's up to you. For all of our teeth, we're going to be using some Morghast Bone. Just hit those teeth. You don't want to get the gums at all. You just want to get the raised areas of those teeth. And we'll paint over them again here in a little bit. For the ruins on our chest area, we're going to be doing some regular white because we're going to put some contrast paints on them here in a little bit. Again, I'm trying to match the art from the game as much as I can. It's obviously a green dragon. There's some ruins on the chest of this dragon that we're going to paint as well. As if your dragon didn't have enough depth already, we're going to add some more. This is a little trick I like to use. That we're not going to cover this entire thing with one wash, but we're going to start putting some of this Biel-Tan Green into the crevices. So if you have recesses, just take a little dollop of there, put it in the recesses. It'll be a little heavy at first, it'll dry, and it will really add a lot of depth to the miniature. So like the creases in the neck, some in the face, on the horns. Obviously you're going to get it into the wings. Anywhere that you would think that would add just a little bit more depth. You don't want to cover an entire area, you just want to add some into the crevices and the recesses of our miniature. It does add a lot. I know you're thinking that this probably is an unnecessary step, but trust me, it does add a lot, especially when we start putting a little bit more highlights onto our miniature. So next we're going to use a little bit of Agrax Earthshade. Obviously we're going to put this onto all of our teeth, and then we're going to put this into all of the cracks and crevices of our belly side of our dragon that we put the Aggaros Dunes in. Again, you can put it all over if you would like, but I really just focus this on the cracks and the recesses of that area. Again, that adds more depth, it makes it darker, it really tricks the eye into thinking that those recesses are much darker than they were before. So it is in my opinion, a necessary step to do. For the last wash we're going to use our Nulin Oil all over our metallic area. Now again, this is a necessity. You need it all over the metallics, so don't forget all your metallic area. Leave the Nulin Oil out because when we get to the castle portion of this painting video, we're going to put that all over the castle as well. You'll see how we do that to make it look kind of like if you're a WoW player or were a WoW player, we're going to make it look like kind of like a Stormwind castle. So stay tuned. Alright, once all of your wash paint is dried, should be fairly quickly, we're going to take some highlights up on this dragon just to kick it up just a notch. So we're going to use some Elysian Green. And I'm really just using this on raised areas. So there's a bunch of I don't even know what they are. Patches of skin in that web and on the webbing of our dragon wings, the face, the neck. I mean, literally anywhere you want to put this, there's no wrong way. It's not overly bright, so it's not going to ruin it if you get a little bit too much here and there. It's just going to add to the contrast and the flavor of the dragon. So I'm picking out areas in the raised areas. I'm picking out little blotches that I just want to hit this Elysian Green with, and I'm really just going all over the miniature and just adding this green. It adds just a third dimension of the green to your miniature that just adds to the poppiness of it, I guess you could say. The curbside appeal or the table appeal. I guess that's a better phrase for it. There's no right or wrong way to do this. I'm doing a little bit of edge dressing onto the webbing, and I'm just kind of going over it. I mean, this process did probably take me 15 minutes because I just would find a place, work on that area, go to the next place, and if I was satisfied how it looked after I was done painting it, I was done and moved on. But it does really add to the depth of the miniature. To brighten up the scales just a little bit, we're going to do a little bit of an edge dressing, so getting just the round or unround or whatever shape it is on the scales and painting it in Balor Brown. I'm also going to be using this as a little bit of an edge highlighting on the lower scales on the tail that have a more predominant edge that's sticking out onto the miniature. So I'm kind of just getting those areas, and it again just adds that third dimension or that third color to make it just pop out just a little bit more, and in my opinion it makes it just look that much better. So do that down the tail. 5-10 minutes it should take you, nothing extra that isn't worth the extra time, trust me. Alright, so when you're looking at the art, and again I keep forgetting to put in the actual image that you find of these miniatures, the paint scheme type thing, you can notice that the raised area of our armor is bright while the recesses or the areas below the raised portion, if that makes any sense, is dark. So keep those areas dark, and we're just painting over the raised areas. So I have a very small brush, size 1, and I'm just going over those raised areas on all of our pieces of armor. I ended up keeping the talons dark. You can brighten them up if you want. I just wanted to keep the focal point on the armor, so if you're just looking at the armor, you see that. You're not really paying attention to the darkened claws that are attached to our dragon. Alright, we're going to do a reapplication of Morghast Bone. Now, if the whole tooth was 100% a tooth, paint about 75% of it from the bottom of the sharp point of the tooth up. So you want to just kind of keep that kind of grungy look that is made by that Agrax Earthshade on there. Next, we're just going to paint the tips in white. It'll make it from that gradient of kind of that Morghast Bone with Agrax Earthshade to straight Morghast Bone to white. And the gradient is perfect for these types of teeth on, you know, mystical creatures. Alright, for the tongue, we're going to do a 3-paint combo. The first one we're going to do is a little bit of pink horror. Now you'll notice that the tongue is kind of slithered with the raised areas on the right and the left. So obviously we're just going to paint those areas. Once you're satisfied with your pink horror, we're going to move on a little bit brighter color in the Emperor's Children. Same exact areas. I think I did 2 coats on the Emperor's Children. It only takes a couple seconds to dry. And then if you want to brighten it up just a little bit more, you don't necessarily need to do this, but I did some Fulgrim Pink, 1 little coat on each side just to brighten up just a tad bit. For the middle, a little bit of Balor Red on our Ruin. I thinned this out. I put a little bit of water on a palette with the Balor Red in there just to kind of make it a little bit more white sticking out. I'm going to do that for all 3 of these colors. Add some water, that is. Even though the Magos Purple is very thin already, you probably don't need to do it. I did it, and I ended up having to do 2 or 3 coats, so it's up to you. But I wanted that white to kind of stick out. And the last color that we're going to use for the far right Ruin is a little bit of Stormfiend. So nothing too crazy right there. And the last step for this dragon before we move on to the castle. A little bit of yellow in the Imperial Fist. I couldn't tell what the color of the eyes were in the art, so I just picked yellow. You can keep them white if you want, but yellow looks pretty good. Alright, now to make our Stormwind Castle. First thing we're going to do is we're going to paint Nulin Oil all over this. So get a very large brush, the largest you got, and slap it all over the bricks and area. Now you can avoid the top portion of the castle, which is the, I don't even know what word I'm looking for, the shingles. There we go. The shingles of our castle that are Dragonlord Levirax, I think is what his name is. I don't know. We're going to paint those here in a minute, but get that Nulin Oil all over the place. There's no right or wrong way to do it. All it does is add depth to the bricks. That's exactly what we are looking for. Next, now you can go as heavy as you want or you can go as light as you want. Trust me, if you go too heavy, it's not going to make a difference. We're trying to make it look that way anyway. Some Seraphim Sepia, and slap that all over there as well. Put a good dollop here and there where it kind of like, it takes a minute for it to dry, because we're going to try and add to the depth and the colorization of this actual castle. Again, you're not going to overdo it. Trust me, you can put as much in there as you want. Alright, to make the Stormwind-looking castle effect, we're going to take some Celestium Blue, and we're going to paint that all over the tiles or the shingles of our castle. Now, you'll notice that the dragon has caused the roof to cave in, creating a disaster in the top portion where the roof once was. So on the inside of it, there's also tiles and pieces that are attached to the roof. I painted those all in blue as well. Alright, quickly take a break, go get a drink, do something to let this entire thing dry. Do not try and push the time frame on letting it, not be fully dry, because you will ruin your dry brush. or the effects of the dry brush. Once it is completely dry, we're going to take a gray seer and we're going to hit that entire thing, including the roof. This gray seer is perfect for this blue. It's going to give you that natural highlight edge dressing on your tiles that make it really stick out. It's like a one-stop shop with doing castles. I'm telling you, it's great. I love it. Next, we're going to take a little bit of a white scar. You don't have to use white scar. You can use whatever you want, white-wise. And we're going to put that, again, all over the place. Even do this on the tile as well. Don't get too much on your brush. Make sure it's mostly off. And get it all over the area. Again, this is going to create that nice edge dressing looking tile, rugged look that's going to look great. And then you have a nice, magnificent castle that will add some depth to here in a second. Now you'll notice when you're looking at this, especially since you basically just re-dry brushed it, we're going to take some Wyldwood and we're going to paint all of the branches and roots that are sticking through. There are several. Some of them are kind of hard to see, so make sure you go over it a couple times. There's some on the front, obviously, the bottom left. And some are sticking out here and there. Some of them look like they're a part of the castle. They're not a part of the castle, like it's a window that was there, so I don't know. Next, you'll notice that there are mounds of dirt kind of sticking out in certain places, so just follow along. There's not that many, but there's a couple. And again, like I mentioned before, we're using some of the Aggaros Dunes, which was used on the belly portion of our dragon. Again, when you did the slap chop painting, there was dark bits and there was light bits. This, since we did a full dry brush on this thing, is going to be mostly white, so it's going to be a brighter Aggaros Dunes. You can't even notice it's basically the same color. So it's kind of a little secret. We'll keep it between you and I. And for the rest of the dirt areas, I went with a little bit of Garaghak's Seer on there. You could use some Basilicanum Gray if you wanted, but it is dirt looking, so Garaghak's Seer is like a very dark brown. I really enjoy this color. So I went with the entire bottom portion with this color to kind of let it give it that brown depth to it. And finally, your favorite part of painting the miniature, because it means you are done, is the rim of the base. And if you're new to this channel, I'm just going to tell you one time, I love painting my rims in black because I just like it, whatever. And, well, that's it. You know, it turned out pretty dang good, and the secret to all this is the slap chop method. There's no secret. That is the secret. That's the method to do it. I'm sure you're tired of hearing me run my voice for the last 30 minutes because I'm tired of talking. I'm just kidding. I'm never tired of talking. I'm never tired of doing these videos. I'm never tired of painting. I love it. I wish I could make a full-time living out of it. Maybe one day, hopefully. I want to say thank you for everybody for watching the video. Thank you for all my subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscription little bell ding button, you know what I mean. And thank you finally to all my YouTube members. You guys are amazing. I can't thank you guys enough. I do this for all of you who support the channel. But without further ado, I'll see you on the next one, and we are done with Descent, Act 2, The Betrayer's War. On to the next project. Paint on.